Are we recording?
Yes.
And I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there.
You threw me off there. I know we believe in God, and I know God believes in us.
What?
Whether it makes you laugh, cry, scream, or fly, there's a song for every emotion. We're Mike and Priya, and we talk about the songs that make up the soundtrack to your life, because life is in the lyrics. Ooh, oh boy.
Welcome back to Life is in the Lyrics, little listeners. This is Mike, and I am very happy. Oh, Priya's about to sneeze.
We're about to sneeze, guys. I'm so sorry. I got the allergies hitting me big time this week.
Ready?
Continue. Keep going.
Okay. Welcome back to Life is in the Lyrics. This is Mike, and Life is in the Lyrics is where we talk about how music and lyrics relates to our lives.
Yeah, and I am Priya, and you know what, little listeners? We have exciting news this week.
Lots of exciting news. Yes, we do.
We've got mail. Woo!
We've got mail. Yes, we do.
Is there a song for that? Okay, that's right. It's our first few pieces of email and text messages. Well, not text messages, but, well, I guess text messages. Anyways, we've got some feedback, and we couldn't be more stoked. Mike, why don't you read it out?
That's right, Priya. We got some feedback. We got some little listeners that wrote in various ways. Actually, we had one that came by text. Mm-hmm. And I think your call, your desperate plea for somebody to email.
Desperate plea.
Resulted in somebody finally sending us an email.
It only took 26 episodes, Mike. I think that's pretty amazing.
That is, yes.
Yeah,
and I can't wait to read that one out.
In another half year, we'll get another one.
Mm-hmm. There we go. So our first bit of feedback came from Melissa. Shout out to Melissa. Thank you very much for writing in. Mm-hmm. So this is what Melissa says. Listening to the Dolly Madonna episode, did you know that there's a song by Jennifer Nettles called That Girl that is a response song to Jolene, written by Dolly?
And I did not know that.
No, either did I. I had to look that one up.
Yep.
And listen to it.
Is it a good song?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it was quite well received. I think it was in 2017 it was released. Something like that.
Okay, cool. I'm going to have to listen to that. So Jennifer Nettles, if for those of you who don't know, is also a country singer. She's, I think, the lead singer from the song Sugarland.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
she's now acting in a new series with Kevin Bacon, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, I did not know she was an actor, but she's in his new show.
Okay. Well, Wikipedia says Nettles co-wrote this song with Butch Walker. The song is about a woman who is tricked into having relations with a man who did not reveal that he is already in a relationship. Dirty, rotten, cheated.
Lions and cheetahs.
She contacts the man's wife and tells her that, I don't want to be that girl. That girl has been described as a lyrical counterpart to Dolly Parton's classic Jolene.
Okay.
Nettles was reportedly inspired by the idea of putting a different spin on the story. Everyone knows this legendary Dolly song, but what is the other side of the story? What if Jolene didn't want to take her man just because she can, so to speak?
Interesting.
Yeah. When I read that, it kind of reminded me of, in one of our episodes, I was talking about Robin. Do you remember? I was talking about the two songs, Call Your Girlfriend.
Yes.
And Dancing on My Own.
Oh, right.
Like the theory is Call Your Girlfriends from the perspective of one of the women, and Dancing on My Own is the perspective of the other woman.
You know, that just makes me think that we should do an episode on call and answer songs, I guess you could say. Like rebuttal songs, because this is a good example. And then there's also Miley Cyrus's Flowers was written sort of as the antidote to a Bruno Mars song.
Oh.
Which was called When I Was Your Man. So I feel like it could be interesting to do an episode on songs that are written as answers to other songs.
Was that Miley Cyrus intentionally set up that way? I read that she was that song was about her relationship with that Liam guy.
Yeah, it is about a relationship, but if you listen to the lyrics, you know what, Mike? We're going to save it for the podcast.
Okay, we'll do an
For that
episode on that
episode.
one. Okay. Well, thank you, Melissa, for sending that in.
Yeah.
And it's obviously sparked conversation and
Already.
an episode idea.
There you go.
We also received an email. This is our one email we received. And we're going to print this off and
Frame
it. This is from Mira.
Woot woot.
Thank you, Mira, for writing in. And Mira writes, hello to you both. I'm loving the feeling and vibe of your podcast. Entertaining and enjoyable. Mike inspired me with a recent reference to Erasure and the song Ship of Fools. That song is on their pop album, and I wanted to reach out and share that was my favorite album to mop and sweep to in my very first apartments. I still clean to music. Makes the cleaning better. Right now, I'm sweeping to dance hall and reggae mixes. What about you guys? Do you have music you like to clean to? Big love, Mira.
And that is an interesting question because I always listen to music when I'm cleaning too, because otherwise it just feels like a chore.
Oh my God.
Yeah? No?
Yeah, that's the kind
Maybe
of joke
so?
that I would say. That's
I
like a dad
know.
joke. But yeah, I definitely listen to music, especially when I'm folding laundry or something like that in the basement.
Yeah? Do you? Yeah?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Why?
Yeah. No, because you just said yeah like 3 times.
Did I?
And I've been trying so hard not to say yeah, sound like a bratty little 13-year-old. And now Mike's doing it.
Yeah.
It's all fine when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. God damn it.
But I think this is another great, thank you, Mira, for writing in, because I think this is another interesting episode idea.
I love it.
What kind of music do you listen to when you're doing chores or you're doing other things? What do you keep? We did kind of reference, I think, in an episode about music that keeps you motivated.
Yes.
For me, it's my exercise mixes, right?
Obviously, people have songs that they work out to. There are songs that I listen to when I'm walking my dog. There are different songs that I put on for different purposes. So I love the idea of doing an episode on songs you clean to, which is not something I would normally have thought about. But for all you people who did write in and text, please let us know what are some of those songs. And Mike, we have one more piece of feedback, right?
Yes, we do. So I was at a party this week.
A
party. And I was approached by...
What did you wear?
No, it wasn't that kind of party.
Oh, not
it was
fancy?
No, it wasn't fancy. It was work related.
Okay.
And I was approached by Libby. Thank you, Libby, for coming up and letting me know you're a little listener. That's very nice. Yeah, Libby came up to me and said her and her children, her adult children, listen. And she found us very entertaining. She thought we sounded great. She liked the sound of our voices. And she thought,
thank you, Libby.
Yeah, and she thought the quality was really good. So that's really nice to hear.
Oh, that's always nice to hear.
And then she also suggested another podcast to us.
Okay.
And I thought I'd give it a try. And I think actually, Priya, I did tell you about it, right?
Yes, I did listen to a little bit of it.
Yeah. And what was your comment back?
I said, do you find these women funny? I listened to the first 20 minutes. They're funny, but I found it kind of cringy how they just keep hammering away just for the sake of being sexual. Yeah.
So I'm just going to give some context here as well. When Libby had suggested this podcast to me, she was like, please don't tell anyone. So I'm now telling everybody on a podcast. She's like, don't tell anyone. I recommended this because they're really raunchy.
Right.
And it's totally, over the top. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. That's my kind of podcast.
Right.
So the first episode that I listened to, I thought was so funny and I was laughing a lot. And then the second one, I actually had to turn it off because I was like, these women are outrageous. And I found this article that Guardian had wrote about it.
Okay.
The Guardian described in a 2020 article this podcast as the darkly hysterical podcast in which comedians play the world's least sympathetic, most judgmental agony aunts. Do you know what an agony aunt is?
No.
Agony aunt is a British term for people that give advice.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, funny. Libby, thank you very much. Thank you to you and your children for listening to Life is in the Lyrics.
Yes.
And not sure what to make of this recommendation, but I will continue to listen. I do find them kind of funny, though.
Yeah, I
in
think
an
the
outrageous
episode that
way.
I picked might not have been the best one to start off with because I was just like, what is happening here? They were talking about clits and like all sorts of things. I was just like,
Yeah.
like I'm like, listen, I love some clit talk as much as the next person, but I don't need to expand on it for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and I was also wondering too if the letters that they're reading are actual submissions that they're receiving, or if
I
they're
think
made up.
people must write joke
Okay.
question. I would
Right.
imagine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Who would ever write a real question? You never know, I guess.
It's true. Well, maybe we will find out if somebody writes into us.
Yes.
We could be agony ants.
We're happy to give advice.
We
I
we
love
got opinions.
telling people what to do.
Oh, she actually does.
I am so good at that. I should have been
That's
an
true.
advice columnist. Yeah.
So that's a little snip about my life this week. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I moved this week.
Oh,
last
yes,
week.
that's right. Mhm.
So just actually a week ago, I moved, and it was. Listen, I'm the type of person who, when I move to a new place, I cannot be surrounded by boxes for weeks and months. I just can't. I need that shit organized ASAP. Luckily, the friend that I moved in with is the same kind of crazy. So we moved on a Friday. We were unpacked and pretty much settled in by the Sunday. And now a week later, we've got most of our shelves and art and stuff up. We just have a few more pieces of art to put up and we done, baby. We
Nice.
done. Yeah.
So let's party.
Let's party. We're trying to figure out a date for our housewarming. Very excited about it.
I was listening to our episode where I think it was the Duran Duran episode where I was talking about my records, and I got so excited when you
Yes.
said your roommate had a record player, and I was like, "Oh my god! Oh, I could bring my records over and we could play them." That cracked me up when I was
And
listening.
she got so excited too. She's like,
Did
oh
she?
my God, we'll just listen to records and drink wine. It'll be so nice.
Oh, that's
It's like,
hilarious.
yeah.
Okay, so good.
Yes, but I do want to just say about my move that
I think the listeners will be happy when this is over.
I'm sure they will. But I just have a wee little rant.
Okay.
Okay. We looked extensively for good movers because it's always a bit of a scam, right? So I went on HomeStars. Do you know
Oh,
this
yeah,
website?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I found this moving company that had amazing reviews. I think they had like 500 really good 4- and 5-star reviews. So I talked to them.
That's a
I
bit
tell them we've got,
sus.
but it's all user-driven reviews, user-generated. So they
Okay.
can't really fake 500 reviews. Anyway, so, I talk to the guy and I say, we have 2 one-bedroom apartments. You'll come to my place first. Then her place is like a 7-minute drive. And then the place we're going to is another 5 minutes from there. So it's all within 15 minutes drive.
Right.
Come to my place, pick up my 1-bedroom apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Told him the big pieces of furniture I have. Go to her apartment, told him the big pieces of furniture she has, and then go to the place.
Mm-hmm.
They show up at my house with a cargo van.
Oh.
With a van that looks not even big enough to load everything in my place.
Right, right.
So I was like, is there another car coming? They're like, no, this is the van. I said, you realize that we have 2 one-bedroom apartments? And they say, yeah. I said, I don't think it's going to fit, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you all the stuff in my place. Anyways,
Were you
it was-
really that calm about it?
to those guys at the beginning I was, and then I was starting to freak out. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
God, give me patience. Grant me, what is it? Grant me the serenity or something.
To accept the things I cannot change.
Oh, Lord, but I wanted
Yeah.
to change it. So we were on
Yeah.
the phone back and forth with the guys. Anyways, it all worked out in the end, but they had to do 2 trips to my place,
Right.
2 trips to her place.
Oh.
So it was
yeah.
very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yes,
How many of the guys were there?
2 guys.
2 guys. Yeah.
I mean, that's usually how many they send. Sometimes they send 3,
Mhm.
but 2 guys would have been enough if they had sent a proper sized, like
Mm-hmm.
an actual cube van of some sort.
Did
all I
they
gotta
did they
say.
damage anything?
They did not damage anything.
They mark any walls or
Mm.
anything like that?
They didn't mark any walls really. I mean, there might have been some minor damage here or there, but nothing major that we complained about.
Right. Good.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
When Don and I moved into this house, we had an amazing set of movers that came. They had 2 massive trucks,
Oh,
and there must have been about 5, 6 guys.
really?
When Don and I moved in together, we both had been living separately, obviously, and where we moved into was
You weren't
partially
living together before you lived together?
No. Durr. And the place we moved into was partially furnished. So we put a lot of our personal stuff in storage,
Right.
but they were in different locations.
Okay.
So when we moved out of that place
Mm-hmm.
into this house, we had to go to 3 different locations to get all of our stuff. And when we bought this house, we had a bit of a window where we could get it painted. So the house was completely empty and we had it painted from top to bottom.
Okay.
Well, the day that we moved in, it was really hot and the guys were really sweaty because they had been already at 3 different locations loading the trucks. By the time they got to our
Were
house,
they hot and sweaty or
they
just hot
were-
and sweaty?
they were hot and sweaty. They were just hot and sweaty. Like they weren't
I don't think you got my
they
joke.
weren't hot. I did.
You
I
did,
did.
okay.
But I can't remember if they were
Okay.
like hot.
I feel like if they were hot, you would have remembered
I
they were
probably
hot.
would have, yeah.
Okay.
They were really nice guys though, and they were amazing. They were amazing movers. But I noticed after they left, the staircase going up to the second floor,
Yeah.
there were all these sweat marks on the paint.
Eee.
So I actually had to paint that. After cleaning it, I had to paint the wall all over again.
That's disgusting.
It is. But you know what? Holland furniture up 2 flights of stairs.
It's sweaty stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. So anyways,
Mm-hmm.
well, glad
Okay.
you got moved in.
Thank you.
How many times did you have to say Jesus, God, Lord?
So many times. It was more. There was a lot of taking the Lord's name in vain and a lot of swearing with that. But that does kind of lead us into this episode
It does,
a little bit. Yeah.
Segue.
Since we just celebrated Easter and Passover, it was it was a long weekend, but a very religious weekend. I thought it would be interesting because I just started thinking about faith and religion. And Mike, you spoke previously about Christian rock being a guilty pleasure of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurred to me that there are plenty of mainstream pop, rock, rap, and of course, country songs about prayer and faith. So I felt that that would be an interesting chat to have.
Fits really well with the Easter timing.
I thought so. It always occurs to me how those of us who say that we're not religious still often call on God
Yeah,
when
it's
we
true.
need some help. It's like, oh God, just get me through this next month. Just get me through this next month, God. It's like, okay, well, if you don't believe in God, who are you talking to?
Right.
So I just thought that was an interesting discussion to have.
How do you define yourself? Do you find yourself as religious?
This is something I find annoying about myself and about people who say this. I say I'm spiritual.
Oh, okay.
And then
Why
I
is
think,
that annoying?
because what does that mean? Does that mean you believe in God? Does that mean you don't believe in God? And if you don't believe in God but you're spiritual, what is that?
Do you have to believe in God to be spiritual?
Well, that's a great
Spiritual?
question.
Is that spiritual?
Spiritual. Yeah. So if you
Spiritual.
don't believe in God, what does it mean to say you're spiritual?
I don't know, actually. I guess I hadn't really thought about whether being spiritual automatically equates to a belief in God.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you.
Like
This is a question.
God.
Right?
What
Yes.
is God?
What is God? Who is God? Well, I don't believe in God because then I'm choosing. Like, which God is it I believe in? Is it Allah? Is it, is it Jesus? Is it, well, it's not Jesus. Jesus is not God, but Yahweh, but which God am I choosing to believe in?
Right.
So I guess maybe for some people who say they're spiritual, maybe it's because they believe in a higher power, but they don't ascribe to any specific religion.
Mm-hmm. Did you grow up believing in anything? Like, were you
No.
religious family?
No, my family went to Mandir maybe once a year.
What's Mandir?
Mandir is our temple,
Oh, okay.
what we'd call the temple. But no, we never celebrated any religious, like we weren't practicing any, like the Hindu religion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Usually in Hinduism, you would have like an altar and you light these diyas, which are oil kind of wicks in oil, and you do a little prayer to all the little statues of the different gods you have, whichever ones you want to believe in, out of the million or so, like the 1,000 of gods that Hinduism has. And you do your little prayer, and that's sort of a daily practice or ritual, but we never did that. I think we did that once or twice here and there for a special occasion.
Okay.
But you were raised religious, weren't you?
Yeah.
Did you go to church every weekend?
Yeah, I when I was younger, I went to church every weekend with my mom, and so my brother and I went to this school, a public school, and I think I was going into grade 3. So when I was in grade 2 and my brother was in grade 4, they converted our public school from an elementary school to a junior school or something like that.
Okay.
At that point, my mom enrolled my brother and I into a Catholic school. And so
Right.
we converted to Catholicism.
Oh,
So as
did
of
you have
grade
to be
3,
Catholic to go to the Catholic school?
yeah, at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we went through that process of becoming Catholics.
Hmm.
And yeah, I remember that. And then I actually, to be honest, I remember enjoying going to church with my
Hmm.
mom, but I had no frigging clue what was going on. These stained glass windows with all these different things that were happening in the Bible, and we'd recite these things. You were
Hmm.
standing and kneeling and sitting and standing.
Right.
I even to this day, I'm kind of like the ritual of it.
Hmm.
I remember what to do next. I don't really understand what
It's
we
like
were
an
doing.
automaton. You're used to the
Yeah,
process and you know what to do, but you don't
yeah.
understand.
And then I left. I went to a Catholic high school in grade 9,
Hmm.
and then I was like, okay, this is freaking crazy.
Mm.
No offense to any Catholics that are listening, but I could not get my head wrapped around this woman getting pregnant immaculately. It's like
Right.
this is just insane. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not believing this.
Okay. But then you went back to church,
I did, yes, and then I
but
went
not
back to church.
Catholic.
Not Catholic. No,
Okay.
it was a Mennonite Brethren church.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's still Christianity.
Yeah, still Christianity.
So how
Mhm.
was it different? Obviously not all the kneeling and standing and kneeling and standing, but how was
I
it
think the
different?
biggest difference was I was an adult
Hmm.
and I had had some life experience, and the reasons for going were by choice, not out of requirement.
Hmm.
And so, what I got out of that at the time, which is interesting because I wanted to talk to you about this in this episode. What I got out of it at this time was around community connection, and also some kind of, dealing with some of my own kind of self awareness pieces, and trying to
Hmm.
find some answers to things about myself that I wasn't, the questions that I had about myself that I needed to
Would you
explore.
say that experience helped you to come out?
Uh,
Or did it keep you in the closet a little bit more because it was a church? Or were they a
no,
very
no, no.
open
It
church?
definitely it was part of the journey.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was totally part of that journey at that particular time in my life. But before we get into all of that, we
Right.
should talk about some music,
Let's
right?
talk about some music.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought it was really interesting when I started looking up songs about
Mm-hmm.
faith and prayer
Mm-hmm.
because
Well, yeah. Well, and actually, we should probably let our listeners know
mhm,
now.
mhm.
This is not going to be an episode all about Madonna, like a
Actually we
prayer.
don't mention her at all.
I did the
Mm-mm.
little bit of the singing at the beginning, but that's all you're going to get.
That's all you're going to get. And
Yeah.
it's also not about George Michael.
Because you got to have
Faith,
faith,
the
faith,
faith, the
faith.
faith. It's not going to be about that.
No.
Nope. And so my roommate, and it's weird now to refer to her as my roommate. She
Right.
was asking me today, well, what's the topic for today? And I said, well, it's going to be songs about faith and prayer. She goes, okay, so you're going to spend the whole episode talking about Madonna like a prayer? And I said, no, actually, we don't mention her at all. And she said, okay, so then George Michael, faith? And I
Right.
said,
Yeah.
nope. She said, what other songs are there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, you would not believe. And she goes, okay, so which ones? I said, no, you'll have to listen to
I
the
have to listen to
episode
the episode. Yeah.
to find out. She goes, I thought I'd have the inside track. And I said, no, bitch, nobody has the
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
track.
Well,
So,
that's funny you say that, because I was talking with my mom last night. She asked as well what the episode was
oh,
going to be about. And I said, you're just going to have to listen.
yeah, nice. Okay, so what we discovered, I think first of all, probably what you and I both discovered is that songs about faith
Mm-hmm.
and religion and belief very prominent in two communities, two genres,
Mm-hmm.
country music
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and rap music.
Yeah.
Let's set aside obviously gospel music and all that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But popular country music and a lot of popular rap artists, like huge names. I'm talking Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Common, and then people like, I don't like to mention him, Kanye, Eminem even. And then Chance the Rapper and Justin Bieber has been making a huge curve in his lifestyle, in his life choices, actually, and his career. Like he's gone quite religious. Did you know that?
Yeah, but yeah. Okay, go on.
No, what? I feel like you have comment about that.
One of the songs that came up for me was his song "Pray" from 2010.
Okay.
He was 16 when he wrote that song.
I don't even know that song.
I didn't either. It came up when I was researching songs that had religion, prayer, that sort of thing. And so I watched the video, and he's so young in this
Just
video.
a baby.
And some of the stuff that I read about it was that he was inspired by Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. And he
Oh,
wanted to write a song that was similar to that.
okay.
And then when you watch the video, there's a lot of shots of like Haiti, homelessness,
Mm,
and shots of him in hospitals meeting children
mm-hmm.
that are sick, as well as like spliced in shots of him live music, like at concerts, singing
Right.
at concerts. And I saw that, I thought, like, okay, he's really young and he's singing about this, but he was actually quite connected to his
Faith.
religious,
Mm,
his faith
mm-hmm.
when he was younger. So
Okay.
it is interesting that, when he got older and then he got connected with, I think it was at Hillbrow or something, church in California. And there was that pastor that he was always photographed with. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, this young pastor who like was always shirtless. He was this hot guy, but he was his
Okay.
pastor and his mentor, and there was always pap photos about them together. And it seemed like my impression was that, he's turning to God and turning to Christianity and religion
Mm-hmm.
because he's, for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, based on this 2010 song and some of the stuff that I read, it sounds like he was writing songs with religious undertones much earlier.
That makes me think that, as he was becoming the huge megastar he is, he had sort of that faith still as part of his life. And then he took a bit of a sharp right into just huge celebrity dumb and, did some things I think he's not so proud of, made some mistakes. And then he talks about that in the song Monster with
Mm-hmm.
Shawn Mendes, where he talks about, how I can't make one mistake without you
Right.
looking at me like I'm a monster. And I think that he kind of turned away from music because it was just becoming so overwhelming. And he has a lot of songs about the toll it took on his mental health too.
Yeah.
So now that he's married, he's a new father, he has really embraced religion once again, which I think is really interesting. And it's been very good for him, which is
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's
So
talk about, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, you were saying about like two genres, country and
Mhm.
rap.
And rap. But I wanted to dig a bit deeper because I think people could ghettoize in a way those two genres and just say, well, yeah, but it's all Bible Belt singers or it's all people who were raised in the
Mm-hmm.
gospel church. So I wanted to look for songs outside of those two genres. So the first one that I wanted to talk about.
We don't know anything about rap.
Well, we don't know
So let's not
anything
go
about
there.
rap, as we say over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The first song, actually, the song that kind of inspired this was a song called Praying by Kesha. Do you know that song?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This song to me, I don't know what it's about, actually. Just because the term praying is in it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's about God, but the lyrics are really quite powerful when she says, I hope you're somewhere praying. I hope your soul is changing. I hope you find your peace falling on your knees, praying. And then I looked up some interviews about her, and she
Mm-hmm.
said, praying was written about that moment when the sun starts peeking through the darkest storm clouds, creating the most beautiful rainbow. Once you realize that you will, in fact, be okay, you want to spread love and healing. If you feel like someone has wronged you, get rid of that hate because it'll just create more negativity.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really a unique way of looking at a situation. I guess it's kind of a song about forgiveness.
Yeah.
But when it first came out, I remember there being a lot of stories about it being in relation to her relationship with a former manager or something who really screwed her over, or there was some Me Too kind of elements to that. So I thought it was about that when she has a line and it says, I had to learn how to fight for myself, and we both know all the truth I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what is that line about? So anyways, this is the song that sort of brought this theme to fruition, you could say,
Mm-hmm.
even though it might not be about actual praying to God. It's the word praying was in it, and it kind of made me think. So that song I really, really love. It makes me think about people who have wronged me in my life, and how I do wish that they can find, I don't know, what is it? Not peace, because I don't know if I care for them to find peace, honestly. And I don't know if it's about forgiveness, because I don't know where I fall on the forgiveness spectrum.
Okay. Yeah.
I find forgiveness a very difficult concept. But I do hope that people can be honest about the wrongs they have done, myself included.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm just saying if you know that you have done something terrible to somebody, I hope that one day you're able to confront that and become a better person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my rant about that. I went on and on and on.
So the Kesha song, I know that song as well, and I was thinking about that. And what I read about that was she hasn't been totally explicit,
Right.
in some articles, but in others she's been more forthcoming. Like she had said in one interview that there had been moments when she was going through this legal battle with her producer.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah, and it was according to Kesha, praying is about hoping everyone, even someone who hurt you, can heal. The song addresses a tormentor with the lyrics, "You brought the flames and you put me through hell. I had to learn how to fight for myself. And we both know all the truth I could tell.
Yep.
I'll just say this, I wish you well." And so apparently she was in a
I'll just say this is I wish you farewell.
I wish
That's the
you.
lyric.
Oh yeah, I wish you farewell.
Mm-hmm.
So she had been in this legal battle with Dr. Luke, who I think was her producer,
Mm-hmm.
and she had, I guess, accused him of sexual exploitation and like a bunch of other stuff. But she was also silenced about talking about it.
Mm.
So there's some connections in the lyrics related to those sorts of
Right.
things that she alludes to. But she also said in interviews how at that particular time she had suicidal thoughts as well, and felt like there was no way of getting out of what she was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And then this song kind of Jesus wept.
Isn't that funny? Mike just sneezed and then he said, Jesus wept. Like the vernacular is,
oh God.
the vernacular is just so common.
Yes, it is.
We say, oh God, oh Jesus.
God, Jesus.
All the time.
Lord Jesus.
God damn it.
So yeah, that Kesha song, that was some of the stuff that I learned about that. And I was thinking, it got me thinking about other bands and other musicians and how prevalent prayer, religion, or religious connotations are a part of music.
Hey, and you know what?
What?
That's why we're having this episode.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So you had mentioned in our U2 episode that
Yes.
U2 was a very Christian band.
Yes.
I didn't know that at all. That was totally not on my radar. And then when I was researching for this episode, they came up all the time. They have a ton of music that's about religion.
Right. But I love that it doesn't necessarily come across that way. Because a lot of these songs, they can be about just what you're going through at the time. It's not necessarily related to God. So I love how U2 does that because it doesn't isolate anybody who doesn't believe.
Right,
It's just a song. Were there other songs of theirs that you specifically wanted to mention?
Oh, they have so many of them that they...
Well, even the name of... the Joshua Tree. I know that's a place. I know that's a
where the
desert.
streets have no name. Oh, no.
But isn't the Joshua Tree, is that also a religious Am I just making that up? The Joshua Tree, the name of it, so the actual word, the Joshua Tree, or the the term. In the mid-19th century, Mormon settlers gave a tree this common name, believing its outstretched branches resembled the biblical Joshua guiding them westward. So even the name of the album has a religious connotation.
Yeah, yeah. One of the songs that came up for me with them was "I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For." That was, but then they had actually written some Christian songs as well, like some Christian focused music. So
really, like that were not released as they're popular, like on their records.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So this led me to be thinking about, okay, well, what is it about religiosity as a concept? Why is that such a popular concept for music?
Well, let me just start off by giving you some stats on religion, because I think this might inform. So Christianity has the most followers worldwide, approximately 2.3 billion. Islam is the second largest with about 1.9 billion followers. Then Hinduism, 1.2 billion, and Buddhism, approximately 0.5 billion. That's almost 6 billion people out of the 8.2 billion people in the world. So over 2/3 of the population believes in God. So
or has some sort of
sort of religious belief system. Right? Because it's not just faith in, I don't know, karma or destiny.
Right.
So I think with those statistics out there, should we be surprised that a lot of musicians
if that's what they know.
About?
Yeah.
Also, because I think like when you become a celebrity, like these are the things this is what you've dreamed of. This is what you've wished for, what you've prayed for. So I guess it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. There's another religious term, right? That all your dreams are coming true. Everything you've prayed for is coming true. So obviously the divine hand must have played a role in that. I would think. And a lot of musical artists and stuff come from the church. Like they come from, singing in the choir or playing piano for the choir or the organ or something. So it's been part of their. Why are you laughing?
Nothing.
Okay,
Yeah.
But you're laughing.
You said organ.
Oh my
I don't
God!
know why
So
that made me
childish.
smile. I know, I'm just such a goof. Anyways,
oh my God.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense, and it is so obvious. But I don't know. It's interesting to me that organized religion it can be a source of joy, stability, but it's also so rife with hatred and exclusion.
Yes.
And those two competing, elements of humanity, acceptance and love and joy, competing with judgment and hatred and
exclusion.
And those are some pretty powerful themes that obviously lots of music is written about that. I don't know. There's something about the religious part of it that
it's the organized religion.
Yeah.
That I personally have an issue with for the exact reasons you're saying, because it is exclusionary. If you say I'm Christian, well, here's another thing that is fascinating is that Christianity, Islam, and Judaism all sort of believe in the same, like they have a lot of similarities in like Judaism and Christianity all believe they believe in Jesus, right? So, but they've gone kind of different ways. And then Christianity has fractured into a gazillion different branches. But
gazillion?
Like, I feel like there's a gazillion. I didn't even know there was the Mennonite, what was it?
Brethren.
I didn't know that was a separate thing. And I have a hard time picturing you there. Did you wear the hat?
No, it's not that kind of Mennonite.
All right.
No.
I know. I just had to put that out there.
My bonnet?
Yeah, your bonnet.
I arrived on a horse and carriage or something like that.
Yeah. No? Okay. No. Yeah, I just find that, like, because if you're in one religion, then you believe that everybody in the other religions is wrong. Yet, there are lots of interreligious coalitions and stuff. You hear about that all the time. Even in Toronto, like you hear about leaders from the Islamic church and the Jewish church and the Christian church all coming together and having they have common ground, and they, they break bread together, to use another religious term. So I don't know why. What am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is, if the leaders of the churches and the religions can find common ground, why do the followers of the faith have to believe, but my religion is superior to your religion? Maybe they don't all believe that, but there is some kind of just a inherent belief that if you're Jewish, you're the chosen people. So then if you're Christian, you must be going to hell. You know? I don't know. That
Yeah.
bothers me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know where I stand with organized religion. I haven't yet figured out my position on it. I have my own love-hate relationship with that. I find it offensive to see how people use their religion to justify.
Don't even get me started on confession.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's not go there because that's just a bit too loaded.
Yes.
I'm not sure I want to have that kind of conversation.
No, but but I hear what you're saying in terms of justifying bad behavior.
Yeah, and I just think that I can't articulate the way I feel about
think
it.
about it.
Yeah. So another thought that came to me around this was, I've been reading a little bit about how there are a lot of younger men going back to church. There's a lot of younger men connecting with organized religion, and I was like, okay, well, that's why why is that kind of showing up in various things that I'm reading? So as I was looking for some information about it, I also found this article that was talking about how for women, actually women are leaving the church and a lot of men are joining the church, mostly younger men.
Right. Younger meaning what? Like in
Younger,
their 20s?
like 25 and under.
Okay.
Yeah. And in part, that's because women are currently where we're at in society, at least Western society, organized religion and the church is becoming more aggressive to women's rights. And so rights that they grew up with, like the right to make decisions about their own body, abortion, for example, and some of the trends in terms of taking in politics and in societies like the US, for example, where they're passing laws denying women these rights that these women grew up with. So like 20-year-old women didn't have to fight for that right?
Yes.
But 50-year-old, 60-year-old women, they remember that struggle. And so these 20-year-old women are like saying, "Oh, wait a minute. I may have grown up with religion, but I also had these other rights. And now you're taking these rights away from me." Or at least it's being positioned that way, which goes back to that part that I just said, how people use religion like, oh, these Christian rights.
Yes.
And for males, it's that they're looking for community.
Oh.
They're looking for a connection. And that doesn't surprise me either when you think of the number of men who are like these young men who are, maybe they're not learning how to socialize because they're online all the time playing video games, maybe. I don't know. But I just think that's really interesting. And they're looking to church to as a way of finding connection.
When I was in Paris a few weeks ago, we went into a lot of churches just because I find as buildings, they are just beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
And we were at this one church, and I guess we were going in right before evening sermon. And so outside in the square, outside of the church, there was like 3 or 4 young men, probably in their mid-20s. Very handsome men dressed in business suits and stuff. So I thought they were just finishing their workday and all, and they were just gathering in the square. Maybe they were going for a drink. And then they went into the church. And we were going to the church just to look at it and observe its beauty. We didn't know that there was a sermon happening. But then the service started, and those guys went and sat down. And I thought, oh, That's not what I expected
Right. Yeah.
of these guys to be doing. I thought they were going to go out to the bar for a drink.
Right.
And here they are sitting
Going
in
to
a church
church.
for a service
Yeah.
on a Friday night. I think it was a Friday night. So that goes to your point. That's really interesting. Also, side note, little listeners, do you want to count how many times we said the word listening in this? I mean, interesting in this
Oh,
episode?
yeah.
Because I've counted at least 7.
Yeah.
And it's just.
I say that a lot. You know what's interesting about
I
this?
know.
I found that interesting.
I say it a
all the
lot
time.
too. I
But
try
it
to
is
catch
interesting.
myself. That's why, if you'll notice, I just said fascinating because I'm trying to switch it up.
Wow. Look
Trying to
at
mix it
you.
up.
Shake it up there.
That's right.
for
Looking
ya.
up some synonyms here. Okay.
Well, here's another fascinating / interesting thought about this. So as I was thinking about these musicians and why, I mean, yeah, I take your point. 6 billion people are connected to some type of religion
Yes.
out of 8 billion people. So of course it's ingrained in our the fabric of our being for many of us. But I was also thinking about the Justin Biebers and some of these other artists who have a connection to music and what it must be like to professionally be in a business where your soul might feel damaged
Right.
over time, or you're exposed to things that are exploitative. And that loss of self, that loss of connection to, understanding who you are as a person rather than a
Yeah.
commodity. And thinking about that and the connection and why I was thinking, oh, maybe part of why they sing a lot about faith, prayer, God is part of their exercise of trying to figure out who they are outside of being this commodity.
That is definitely thought-provoking.
Mm.
That is actually a really good framing of it. And you're right. I mean, it must be hard to hold on to yourself as the person you were before you became this phenomenon that is not even about you anymore
Well,
after a
and
while.
Justin Bieber was like 9 years old or something. He was so young when he started out.
Right.
Like for many of us, I don't know about you. I'm 56. I think about my 20-year-old self, and I think, wow, that was a totally different person. I think of my 40-year-old self, and I think, boy, I've really changed since then. For someone like Justin Bieber, who, he's been a commodity more of his life
Yes.
than
not. Since 2009, I just looked up when his first hit came out, and that was One Time in May 2009. So for 16 years,
Yeah.
he's been in the spotlight
So
completely.
so he was like 15 in 2009.
And that was his first hit, but he was
Right.
having YouTube hits for a long time before that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, anyways, it did strike me as an interesting parallel, the prevalence of songs that are about God and praying for things by people whose existence, so much of their existence is dependent on how much money they can make
Right.
from their image, their persona. And I remember in our episode with Mary, when we were talking about Dolly and Madonna, and Mary was so emphatic about how, these women shouldn't have, like Madonna shouldn't have had to exploit her looks. It should have been about her craft. But these are commodities. These they might be people, but what we know of them, we're not buying them as people.
No,
We're
it's just
buying
the
them
image.
as commodities.
Yes.
So
And women have not had the luxury of it being just about their talent. And they still don't to a much greater degree than men. When you look at the women who are massive stars, they're mostly really gorgeous, in great shape women. You can say that about a lot of the guys, but probably not as many.
okay, so those are my comments about this episode.
There's just a few songs I can mention that we don't have to get into too deeply, but Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen,
Yeah.
which is such a beautiful song, and I feel like everybody knows that song.
Yeah. Well, it's been done so many
It's
times
been
as
done
well.
so many
Yeah.
times. And then Need a Favor by Jelly Roll was
Mm.
one that I thought was, do you not know that song?
No.
I only talk to God when I need a favor. And I
Mm.
only pray when I ain't got a prayer. So who the hell am I? Who the hell am I to expect a savior? It's just a
Right.
cool song about, you know, so many of us who don't consider ourselves religious, but when we're in a pickle,
Mm-hmm.
we're always praying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what is that go-to reflex that we pray and it's like, God, just do this one thing and I will whatever.
Well, so have you ever done that?
All the time.
Yeah, but have you ever been in a situation where you really were like, I really need help out of this situation, and you don't know where to turn, and so you
I have, but I don't think I've often made that deal with God, but not in a serious way where I'm actually thinking that if I'm praying to this deity, my problem is going to be solved. But it is a reflexive thing, like just, oh God, if I can just get through this time.
right,
So I
right,
use the terminology, but I'm not really speaking to this, white-haired figure in the sky or
right,
whatever
right,
he looks like, or the elephant god with
or
many
she.
arms, or she.
Mm-hmm.
Hinduism has many female gods, but I do kind of reflexively say, God, just
Yeah.
help me out this time.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Mm-hmm.
you?
No, no, I don't. I think like you, there's this reflexive
Mm-hmm.
thing, but I can't think of the last time I can't think of the last time I did that. Well, you asked me earlier about, going to church, and that definitely was part of the experience, or
Mm-hmm.
part of the purpose for me at the time was to not necessarily go to church and pray to God to get answers,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a little bit of going to church and to try and get answers. And
Mm-hmm.
if there is a God, would there be some guidance that would lead me towards a better understanding of these, questions and this unsettling part of my life, or
Right.
this not unsettling, this unsettled part of my life.
Right.
So yeah, I think in that context, I have prayed
Mm-hmm.
for some guidance.
Right. I feel like a lot of us do it in that sort of context. So here I'm going to read some
Mm.
lyrics and you tell me if you can identify the song. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God and I'd get him to swap our places. Be running up that road. Be
Oh
running up that.
yeah, yeah,
I love that song
yeah.
by Kate Bush, which had a huge resurgence
Right.
2 or 3 years ago during the last
Stranger Things.
season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like that's what it is for so many of us.
Mm-hmm.
If I only could, I'd make a deal with God,
Yeah.
this being. If I only could believe in that, and get him to swap our places.
Mm-hmm.
I love that lyric. Yeah,
Any other lyrics
I mean,
that
there are,
are religious context?
well, there are so many, but
So many.
so many. But here's an interesting one by the Birds. Turn, turn, turn. Do you remember that song?
Yes. Yeah.
For every season. Anyways, but the sentence, the lyric is a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. That is almost verbatim chapter 3 of the book of Ecclesiastes, where
Yeah,
King Solomon
that's right.
contemplates the meaning of life, God, and eternity.
Yeah.
So another huge mainstream pop song that has deeply religious connotations.
Yeah. And any others?
No, I mean, yes, look, I could have brought up a million others. Do you have others?
Well, I'm just surprised that you didn't bring up Taylor.
Oh, I have not. I do not have a Taylor reference. Hit me.
Wow.
Hit me.
But we might just get away with it. Religion's in your lips. Even if it's a false god, we'd still worship.
Oh, what song is that from?
But we might just get away with it. Religion's in your lips. Even if it's a false god, we still worship. We might just get away with it.
I don't know this song.
This is False God from Lover.
I do not know that song.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You often hit me with Taylor songs that I don't know.
Okay.
which I'm going to now have to, of course, listen to
Look
on
it
my
up.
drive home.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right. Well, what
I
do you
think we're
think?
going to wrap this up. I do want to just say, because there's often the debate of science versus religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was interesting that Einstein has a couple of quotes about the two
Okay.
seemingly opposing belief systems. He said, "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind." And he also said, "God is a mystery, but a comprehensible mystery. I have nothing but awe when I observe the laws of nature." I thought that was really beautiful. I just thought it was an interesting way to maybe bring the episode to a close, talking about one of the most famous scientists of our time, of any time, and his thoughts on how religion and science can kind of be hand in hand.
Right. Well, that
Yeah.
was a very good connection. Thanks, Priya.
Yeah. I have a question for you before we finish.
Yeah.
Who is behind the wheel in your life? This is kind of like coming off the song, Jesus Take the Wheel.
Oh.
Would you say it's fate or free will? So let me give you some choices. Is it a higher power? Is it yourself? Is it someone else? Or God knows?
Good question.
Who's driving the car?
I've often, so my husband's an atheist, and whenever we've had conversations that, involve religion, I am I've often said there's got to be a higher purpose to why we're here. There's got to be a reason for our existence.
Right?
And his view is there isn't, which I find really uncomfortable and
Me
disconcerting.
too.
So I think that the person behind the wheel is me, and part of my part of the journey of life is figuring out how to be the best me there is, and that comes with making mistakes, having regrets, having joy, experiencing love, like all of those elements, and working through all of that at the same time. So I don't know if that really explains it, but yeah, I think I'm the one in charge. I'm the one at the wheel, and it's up to me to work through my understanding of all of the things that are being thrown my way or that come my way that I go through. What about you?
I think similarly. I feel like I am driving that wheel, but I think ultimately it always comes down to ourselves, and only we have the power to become the best we can be. Nobody else can force you to be a better person or to look at yourself objectively. But I would say that my car is full of, all the people who have kind of helped me throughout my life, including my therapist, who I used to see for a long time, but all the friends and, all the love that has helped me to become the person I am and who's supported me and kind of makes my life worth living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Deep
Yeah.
question. That's a big
Yeah.
one. All right, little listeners, what about you?
Yes.
Who's
folks.
behind the wheel? So what's the question?
Who is behind the wheel in your life? Is it a higher power? Is it you? Someone else? Or fuck, you have no idea.
Little listeners, write in and let us know. You can let us know by sliding into our DMs
sure
on our
can.
Instagram account. You can also let us know by emailing us at
Yes.
lifeisinthelyrics@gmail.com. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this episode. And we will see you next Wednesday.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, folks. Gonna get him to swap our places.